Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is today's news report of how wonderful life is. I wanted to talk to you about what it is to be a man based on being a Scotsman. If you hadn't have already guessed, I am a Scotsman, but I lost my accent years ago because I got bullied. Alistair McLean, probably the most Scottish name in existence. I've been speaking to my partner Hazel about what does it mean to be a man who can stand and work alongside the feminine. This is very challenging, very difficult. I want to focus on the word challenging. Challenge, to challenge. There's a healthy challenge and there's a distorted challenge. And I will use this time to describe to you how I use the wisdom of spirit animals to describe my own behaviour and the behaviour of men. And I will use the animals of Scotland. One of the main animals of Scotland is the stag. And the stag likes to challenge. Their antlers come together, and that essentially is war. That's the unhealthy expression of challenge. But if you've ever been to Scotland and you've spent a lot of time there and you've got to know the culture, you'll know that Scotsmen don't put up with any shite. And that's because, number one, they don't like to be challenged into war, because if you're asking war of a Scotsman, then you've already lost. But if you like to challenge a man's truth and say, I'm not so sure that's true, there really is this healthy honouring, I find, in being a Scotsman. And there's this energy of protection as well. Instead of fighting each other as men, which obviously does happen, but it's healthy, I find, when instead of calling each other names, I was finding in the 80s and 90s, if men had a problem with each other, they would fight, and then it would be over and they'd be friends. That doesn't happen anymore. I'm not encouraging it either. I'm just saying there's that cultural difference. Then you take the main animal of Scotland, which is in the flag, is the lion. The lion's about devotion. Scotsmen are devoted. But it's about devotion to love and to heart. And I'm going to speak about a third animal, and all these three animals that I talk about, they have one thing in common, and that's to fight and stand in love. So I'll talk about the next animal. What is that? It's the Highland cow. And if you look at the head of a cow, the Highland cow, it looks like a Viking. And Vikings were honourable, despite what you've heard. Berserkers went berserk in the name of love. And the bull is about presence, because when you put a bull out in a pen, it's separate from the females. And if you walk around the corner and you see this big bull, it's huge. And it holds that presence because it's present in its heart. And I find this is why, I've heard a lot of women say, I've always wanted a Scotsman as a boyfriend. And why is that? It's because they're honourable, they're present in their heart, and they fight for the feminine. And that's what these three animals who represent Scotland have in common. They fight for love. And this is what I do. I fight for love. And in order to work with the feminine, you can't fight for your ego. You can't. It will destroy you. Because if you start entertaining your ego and fighting for your ego and protecting your ego, you're walking yourself closer and closer to the edge of a cliff. Because when you turn and face love, when you can turn and face your opposite, when you can face a woman and say, I'm here, I'm sorry for everything I've done to you, I take full responsibility, you start walking back to your dreams, to your heart, and your whole life will change. Your old life will fall apart, but you'll start walking towards your dreams, and you'll be realizing that you've lived a lie. And any judgments, projections, anything you have of what you believe the feminine to be and how she hates you, it's all a lie. Because when you turn it on yourself, stop pointing the finger like I did, and look inside, you realize that everything I have created has attracted that energy to me. So when I create love with the feminine, I attract that in return. So that's what it is to be a man. It's to be present in your heart, to be devoted, and to challenge yourself to be even greater in the name of love. To stand in pride. That's what the stag's about, pride. That's why it's the emblem for my channel, The Sacred Rainbow Warrior. The flag was hijacked, the rainbow flag was hijacked. There's one colour missing, I've spoken about this, the colour of blue, which is the purity of the voice, the purity of who we truly are. And it is all about love, and there are different expressions of love, but the purity of the rainbow and of the stag, the purity of pride, is all of the colours, all of them. And I speak the purity of that voice to say, to challenge those lies, to stand in truth, and love is truth. And to do this, you have to take the journey of purification into becoming a true gentle man. And that, again, is about the lion. Lions are gentle. They're not kings for their prowess and ferocity. They're kings for their devotion to love, the size of their love. My love is limitless, no bounds. And that's another thing about Scotland, right? This is why they have the lion as in their flag, the golden lion. You might not know this about Scotland, but Scotland has no borders. You can walk onto another person's land and not get the police won't be called on you. Whereas in England and Wales, you're not allowed to do that. It's trespassing. But in Wales, in Scotland, there are no borders. You can do that. And why is that? Because Scotland kept their tribe, they kept their heritage. If you've ever met a Scotsman or a Scotswoman, all they talk about is Scottish history, and it's beautiful. That's pride. Again, back to the stag. Pride in your heritage. To keep that. That's what I've been reclaiming my heritage. And it's not just about Scotland, it's about what comes before that and what I take with me into the future. Because we've been lied to about our history, because it's also her story as well. Thank you for listening. Namaste.